Welcome to Live, Love, Engage, the podcast where we share practical advice from a spiritual perspective on how to create a life and business with more impact, influence, and income. I am your host, Gloria Grace Rand, the insightful copywriter and founder of the L.O.V.E method. My mission is to help you stop doubting yourself so you can live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically. Namaste and welcome to a live edition, I should say, a live edition of Live, Love, Engage. We are coming to you live as I do on Wednesdays, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And for those of you who are listening to this on the rebroadcast, listening on your favorite podcast platform, I'm delighted to have you here as well. And today we're going to, I know lately when I've been doing the solo episodes, I've sort of talked more about spiritual things. I've talked about meditation, and I've talked about journaling. And today we're going to talk a little bit more practical. We're going to be talking about the importance of benchmarks. And if you don't know what a benchmark is, I wanted to get the official definition. So Oxford Languages defines it as a standard or point of reference against which things may be compared or assessed. So why do we need to have a point of reference? Well, I want to share with you a story regarding this that will help to put it into perspective. So for those of you who may or may not have been either you're a friend of mine and you've known me for many years, or maybe you've been watching the podcast on YouTube for a long time, you may notice that my weight tends to fluctuate. It has fluctuated a bit over the last couple of years. I've been up and I've been down, and right now I'm working on getting back down again. I'm not terrible. I've thankfully have never gotten back to the weight I was at my highest point, which was almost 200 pounds about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It was a while ago. I've never gotten back up to there, thank God. However, I do have a tendency to indulge in some emotional eating, shall we say. And when I'm in the throes of that, which I had been pretty much about this last month. Now, it wasn't all the time. I mean, sometimes I was eating well, and sometimes I just had a craving for something and would go buy some cookies or some ice cream or something. And as the weeks kind of, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks goes by, I started realizing, well, a couple of things. Number one was that, I really have been indulging more than the eating healthy stuff. And I was starting to feel it on my body. I was starting to notice it in my clothes. Things are getting a little tighter around the waist. And I was realizing that I was going to have to make some changes soon. And at the same time, excuse me, one of the things I was also not doing at this time when I was paying more attention to what I was eating was I wasn't stepping on the scale. And, I was avoiding that. I was, part of me was still in denial, thinking, oh, it's not too bad. I still eat, part of the day I'm eating well. And this shows up in, well, what do they say? The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Yes, I'm working on changing that still. But I will say that in the past, that's also has shown up in my business. Any small business owner knows that you need to track your numbers. You need to keep track of how much sales you're bringing in. What are your profits? Someone's commenting on Facebook saying, "Are you talking about me?" I'm talking about me. I don't know. But anyway, you need to be able to keep track. You need to be able to see where you are. And why this is important is because if you have a goal in mind, let's say you want to earn a certain amount of money per month from your business. Well, if you don't know where you're starting from, that benchmark, then it's going to be hard to know when you reach your goal. And so that was really what was going on with me as well, is I know that um, well, I'm gonna go back to the weight. This weight issue is that I know that I wanted to get to a certain, back down to a certain weight, and by not stepping on the scale, I didn't know how far away from that goal I was, and again, so, sometimes it's like we don't wanna know. We figure, "Okay, if I don't know, it's not gonna hurt me." And I will say that you're not going to get to where you're going. And I was actually, I love this. I was listening to Esther Hicks and Abraham this morning, and it was like, oh, thank you, universe, for sending me this lovely example. She was, I forget what exactly she was talking about, but she shared this, Abraham, I should say, shared this example of, I guess, something possibly Esther might have done or something she could have done, let's put it that way. So, let's say you get into your car and there is a just happy sticker, happy face sticker on top of your gas gauge. And now let's say you're gonna start the engine and you've got to drive 500 miles. Well, if you don't know how much gas is in your tank, you don't know if you're gonna make it 500 miles before you run out of gas and you're going to have to, uh, you know, walk to the nearest gas station and go get some fuel for your car. So you have to take off that happy sticker. You can't be playing, oh, la, 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 everything's fine, everything's lovely, everything's happy. And you're gonna have to face the music, as they say. So you're gonna have to see how much gas is in the car and know whether or not you've got enough to get to where you want to go. And so for me, I finally stepped on the scale on Monday, and looked at it and went, "Whew." I sighed a big sigh of relief because it wasn't as bad as I had thought it was. And yes, I had put on a few pounds, but I didn't cross like this other threshold where I knew it was going to be really bad if that had happened. So I was still under, a certain number. And it was like, "Whew, okay, good." And that's really the lesson I want to share with you is this is where our minds just can really create havoc for us, whether it's in our personal lives or it's in our business. When we don't know what our benchmarks are, when we don't know where we're starting from, then our minds just love to create drama. They create stories and just these worst case scenarios for, oh my gosh, oh, you don't really want to know because it's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. And then you're going to be depressed. And then you're going to get angry at yourself and you're going to beat yourself up. And it's much better. Let's just be Pollyanna and not know. When you know, oftentimes, like it was in my case this week, it was not gloom and doom. Things were not as bad as my brain was wanting to make it out to be. You know, this mind of mine that was wanting to cause havoc in my life. So when we can be real, be honest with ourselves, open our eyes, take a look and see what's what. Usually, I would say probably 9 times out of 10, things are not as bad as we want to make them out to be. So that's my lesson today on benchmarks. That's really why it's so important. So, again, if you want to go somewhere, you got to have a starting point, and you've got to know where you're starting from, so that you can plot your route to get there. Again, it's like, okay, I know we all have GPSs, but when I was a kid, we went to here in the United States, there's a company called American Automobile Association, and they would give you something called a triptych, which was like a map, but it was a map. Each part of the route would be on a separate piece of paper. And I would flip through the map when we would take our trips from Michigan down to Florida to visit my grandmother. And so whenever we went to AAA and asked them to put together this triptych, of course, the first map would be where we're starting from, which was the Detroit area. And then they would mark out the map, drive down I-75 and start making our way down to Florida. But we had to know where we were starting from in order to get there. So you've got a goal and you want to reach that goal. You First thing you need to do, I mean, it's great to start with a goal, but now you've got to know where you're starting from, because then also, let's take it back to business here for a minute. Let's say that you have a grand goal of wanting to earn $100,000 this year. Well, if you go and look at your QuickBooks or whatever else you're looking at, and you see that you're only making $1,500 a month, now to get to $100,000 by the end of the year, that's a big stretch. So you do want to make goals that stretch you a little bit, but you also want to make them not so unrealistic that you can hit them. You wanna be able to make them so that you have something to strive for, and that you can really feel good about yourself when you get there. And of course, there's a whole thing about, setting SMART goals where you wanna have them be measurable and well, realistic. That's what I'm talking about here. Make it a realistic goal. You can Google it, look up SMART goals. I'm not gonna get into the details about that today. What I do want to share with you today, though, is a daily word, because I do like to do that. And one of the wonderful things about Unity's daily word is that well, number one, they've been doing these daily readings for decades now. I think almost 100 years, in fact. And when you've got the app on your phone, or even online, you can look them up, and you can search by a particular topic, and you can find a reading that works with that. So I looked up one today on goals, because I didn't think they would have benchmarks necessarily, but figured goals, that works. So this was actually one, I love it. It's from October 14th, 1992, which was 1 month before my daughter was born. But I wasn't really reading the Daily Word back then, unfortunately, but I got to read it today. So that's good. So the affirmation, they always have an affirmation that starts out by saying that I set goals that help me achieve my good. And then it goes on to say, we may have been encouraged to make a list of goals and to formulate a plan for accomplishing them. If we have made such a list, then we know that even the most well-organized plans can go awry. That's true, right? Or we may stop short of reaching our goal because someone tells us our plan is flawed. For whatever reason, we may find that we need to step back and look at our goals from a different perspective, one that takes in the whole picture rather than a limited view. Then we understand how our goals fit into the overall scheme of life and how important it is for us to follow divine guidance. Every good desire is from God, and there is a sure way to accomplish each goal. When we let go and let God work in and through us, we release all concern and know that we are on the right path. And then they have oh, it's always a reading. This is from Philippians 3:14. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. But I want to go back. I want to go back one quick second here before I let go of this. Pardon the pun. I love how it says here, when we let go and let God work in and through us, we release all concern and know that we are on the right path. That's important to know because oftentimes we'll set a goal and then we start obsessing over how to get there. And Mike Dooley is a wonderful author and speaker. I'm a follower of his, and he always talks about the cursed hows. And I love that because getting obsessed over the hows just closes us off from our intuition. It closes us off from allowing God to work through us, to give us divine inspiration. And it will then, God will give us an opportunity. We'll actually put people in our path to help, or we'll put resources in our path to help. And so then we will be able to accomplish our goals. But it's by letting go and letting God work through us that we then detach from the outcome. And that's when miracles, frankly, can occur. And you'll be able to achieve your goal with ease and grace. And that's what I love to do. I love that. Being able to do that, I think, is so important. So when you are going through your day today, and if you ever find yourself stressing over how to do something, I encourage you to catch yourself and take a breath and say, okay, let me not stress over how to do this. I'm going to trust that the answer is going to come to me. And what I would recommend doing is go do something else right then. Just change your state, get your mind off of it, and odds are the ideas will then come to you when you've distracted that busy part of your mind and be able to tap into the higher self and let those messages come through to you. I don't know if as an example, if you've ever had this where you've lost something in the house and you're like your keys or something, you want to go somewhere and you can't find them. I have found, this has been in my experience. Now, one thing you can do, you can ask your angels to help you find it. And the other thing I found is to go do something else for a minute and just take your mind off of it and just trust that it'll come back to you. But when you're stressed, the brain doesn't work as well. Frankly, it really doesn't. And I know there's probably some scientific facts to back this up. I don't have it handy, but I am almost 100% sure that when we get so stressed, now there's good stress, but there's like I'm really just getting so worked up. That type of stress, it really shuts you down. It shuts you down from allowing inspiration to come through, allowing your intuition to work more powerfully. So relax, don't get stressed, and take a break for a second, and then give yourself a chance to be able to have that information come back to you. Because a lot of people liken our brains to a computer, and sometimes when you've got a lot of stuff in here, especially as you get older, you have more experiences and more memories that are in there, it takes a little while to retrieve these things. And so you gotta really give yourself an opportunity to have those inspirations, have those ideas come to you. And you might have to take a little time for that sometimes. So I hope you've been getting some value out of this today. If you are would love to be able to talk with me a little bit more about how to be able to tap into your intuition, I would love to chat with you. If you go to engagewithgloria.com, takes you right to my calendar and you can set up an appointment. It's not, I'm not going to sell you anything. It's just strictly, let's just have a discussion and see if I can help you out in any way. And if there is a way that I can help you out, maybe there is a way we can work together. We will do that. But don't cut yourself off from reaching out to me thinking that, oh, she's just going to sell to me. I don't operate that way. I don't like it when people treat me that way, and I'm certainly not going to treat you that way. I want to be of service. I want to help as best I can. All right. We are nearing the end of this episode, and as I love to do, I love to be able to share something that is near and dear to my heart, that is a gift that I've received and that I can share with others. And it's something called light language, or as a friend who sent me an interesting documentary to watch on Amazon Prime this week, some people call it star language as well, because it can be messages that come in from another dimension, from beings in another planetary system. One of these days I'll share with you some more about what I believe with regarding to that. But for now, just know that the messages I share are intended for your soul, because it's not the language that comes through, whether it's spoken or whether it's sung. It's not something that your brain is necessarily going to understand, but your soul will. And, the first time I experienced it, my heart, it just like the message just went into my heart and I was crying because it just touched me so deeply. And I don't know if you have that reaction when you're hearing my light language that comes through. You may, but you may not, and that's okay. What I would encourage you to do is just set the intention that whatever you hear will be for your soul's highest good. And again, if you are listening to this while you are driving a car, come back to this episode later when you are someplace where you can sit down, plug your headphones in and listen to it. I just would feel better about it, that you're safe. All right, so I'm going to share with you a message of love and light from the heavens. Let's just call it, it's from the heavens today. そこやちをたしのけはりにこえそこにあちはかよその声そこにあそこにあきやその部屋そのいかへやそよこのにかろふあやのかいそのやてかろかやのけはそあのきやきやそのれやおくえのそのふあそこへかのあそふせこのしやて Oh, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. That felt good. Thank you for watching and for listening. I so appreciate you, and I just really do. I really appreciate you. I love sharing my message is I love bringing you interviews with amazing people. We'll have somebody on next week, and the name is escaping me at the moment. One of these days, I'll be more organized and I'll tease it, but it's okay. Anyway, again, if you would even be interested in receiving a private light language session from me, again, go to engagewithgloria.com and let's talk about it and see how this might be able to help you. And until next time, as always, I encourage you to number one, share this with a friend if you enjoyed it. Share this episode. And number two, go out today and every day and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.